Thanks to you, a campaign that some said shouldn't be here at all has shown that we are here to stay.
Pete Buttigieg made those remarks around 11 o'clock last night once it became clear that he would be the second-place winner in the New Hampshire primary. This is the second time that he's come in very close with Bernie Sanders during the primary.
So, Buttigieg Surrogate Jennifer Holdsworth, she's here with us via Skype now. Jennifer, it's great to see you. How are you?
Good to see you, too. Good morning.
All right, so coming off of a second-place finish in New Hampshire, pretty close. I mean, by all accounts, I think he's finished at 24% of the vote with Sanders at 26%, so within about 2% there. Heading into Nevada, how does the campaign feel?
Well, in terms of being tied with delegates, that's a very exciting outcome. We're really energized. And I don't know if you saw, but this morning we announced that we're doubling our staff in Nevada. So we'll have over 100 people on the ground. We've got more than 50 in South Carolina already that have been working. So we're ready to go.
What are other places of strength? Because, I mean, no secret to you, Mayor Pete has to do better with voters of color if he's going to ultimately be the Democratic nominee. The last national polls had him at 4% with black voters in particular. What are other states that you see him being able to win?
I think that there's going to be a number of states on Super Tuesday. I know that there's a very strong organization in Virginia, Alabama. He got a number of endorsements out of Ohio this morning, whose primary is on St. Patrick's Day, unfortunately, for those Irish Americans who observe. But look, I think you're going to see him be competitive for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. And so what is the strategy going in? So even, the campaign, you got quite a bit of money in the bank. What does the Super Tuesday operation look like? Because some of the other campaigns are basically, flying by the seat of their pants. I would say Bernie's campaign and Buttigieg's campaign, two of the most professional. Take us into the inside of that Super Tuesday operation.
It's organize, organize, organize. I think the more people you have on the ground and the more opportunity that folks who don't necessarily hear the mayor's message coming out of Iowa and New Hampshire, make sure that they hear it going into these other primary contest days. We actually saw in New Hampshire that it looks like Mayor Pete took the largest share of 2016 non-voters. In fact, nearly 50% of folks that didn't vote in 2016 voted for the mayor if they came out in New Hampshire. So he's got a message that is resonating with a lot of folks who have felt like they haven't been part of the process. That's going to be a very large part of the folks that we're talking to heading into these other states.
That's interesting.
What do you make of the fact that the exit polls in both Iowa and New Hampshire show somewhere between 60 and 70% of Democratic primary voters support Medicare for all, which is something that Mayor Pete has obviously been running against?
Mm-hmm. Well, he hasn't been running against it. He's been running for Medicare for all who wants it. As you saw, the largest culinary union in Nevada yesterday handed out a flyer warning their members that folks who were advocating for Medicare for all right away were going to take away their health care. That's a very precarious position to be in headed into Nevada. What Mayor Pete says is that he wants Medicare for all who want it right now, and then provide a glide path to folks to get onto it in the next few years, because he believes that Medicare for all will be the best run healthcare. Therefore, folks will choose it eventually. So this is a much more palatable way to guide us into universal coverage than just force everybody on it immediately.
How do you explain then that polls consistently show that Bernie Sanders is the most trusted candidate on healthcare, and I think that's why he is the front runner leading in the national polls today?
Well, I think that he's been driving home the message for a very long time. He believes in it emphatically, but Mayor Pete has an alternate view of how best to get on board. And those are the folks that he seems to be drawing to the polls, which is why he is the front runner in terms of earned delegates right now. That's not to say that we don't have a long way to go. I think everybody needs to take a breath. We've had 2 contests so far. You have to earn 1,991 delegates to secure the nomination. And I think we've distributed somewhere just under 80 delegates total. So
yes,
I think we've
4%.
got a long way to go, a lot of arguments to be made in the coming months. But I think, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I am interested in is about the debate strategy, because it seems to me that Pete probably would have won New Hampshire if Amy Klobuchar had not surged after a great debate performance. So, I mean, is everything on the line in the debate, given how much of a bump that Amy Klobuchar got there and how much Pete has to prove in order to make up backfill some of the support he has amongst voters of color in Nevada and South Carolina?
Well, I mean, I haven't been paying too much close attention to the horse race coming out of the debates because I still think it has very limited viewership. Unfortunately, it appears that VP Biden and Senator Warren suffered the most from that Klobuchar bump. But what we can tell from the numbers is that over 70% of folks in the race didn't vote for the person who ultimately was victorious in terms of the number of votes. And that's why this delegate process is very important.
Now, how come Pete didn't congratulate Bernie on his victory last night? It's a very notable word choice.
He did. He
No,
did.
he
Said he
congratulated
him on his very strong showing.
Yeah,
It was a very strong performance.
Why not? Well, I don't want to parse, but it seemed a little bit petty. But last question for you, Jennifer, that I did want to ask you is, how are you looking at Nevada? What would be a strong showing there? What would you consider a victory in that state?
I think the same thing that we've been doing. I think if we draw more new people out to the caucuses. Now, look, we're going to try to make sure that some of the same problems don't take place in Nevada that happened in Iowa. We want to make sure everybody is comfortable with the results. But I think a win is just drawing new people in the process and also going to those places where people haven't heard from Democrats in a while. As you saw in Iowa, Mayor Pete won 66 out of the 99 counties, including all of the Obama to Trump counties. And I think that's what you're going to see be a victory in Nevada as well. So I have no doubt that folks will continue to respond to the mayor's message in Nevada and South Carolina and beyond as these contests continue to come through.
So just to be clear, if he's not, 1, 2, or 3, you could still consider it a victory if he's turning out new people or performing well in some of those communities that maybe Democrats don't go to that much. Is that the way you're looking at this?
I think that's a positive thing for the Democratic Party overall.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, you, Jennifer.
Jen. Great to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
Coming up, how does Team Rising think New Hampshire primary night went? Their thoughts when Rising continues.